Hi everyone, welcome. Today we're going to be taking a look at the WE Knife Company 808 caliber. This is a titanium frame lock flipper with carbon fiber inlays. It has a 3 3/8 inch blade of CPM S35VN. The weight is 3.7 ounces. First, let's talk about the positives of this model. I really like this blade shape. It has a relatively thin blade stock. The handle is relatively ergonomic. It is a octagonal shape with flats with very large chamfers on each side. There's also a glass breaker on the end, but the glass breaker doesn't get into the way of the ergonomics. Okay, now let's get into the negatives. One just aesthetic thing is that on this side, on the frame lock side, it looks like there's a large gap between the carbon fiber inlay and the handle scale. Of course, that's where the cutout for the lock bar is, but still, I really don't like that for some reason. The blade on my copy has an uneven grind on the tip. This side, on the left side, it's relatively wide at the tip. On the right side, it's quite a bit narrower. So that's kind of disappointing in a knife that is about $250. The detent on this copy is really stiff. The flipper tab has a squarish shape. The point on the side of the square tends to dig into your finger pretty bad. So if you flip this knife repeatedly, it's very uncomfortable. Also, the blade detent is so stiff that this hole is almost impossible to use for opening. Sometimes if you use two fingers, you can pinch it open like that, but it's not very practical for opening the blade at all. So it's pretty much a flipper only knife. Another thing is that the blade hole, the aesthetics of this I don't like, because the blade hole intersects with the handle scale. I think it would look a lot better if there was some metal there. There's a lot of friction in the bearings of this copy. It's quite a lot of work to shake it shut. And even opening, you can see there's quite a lot of friction. Maybe they cranked down the pivot quite a bit because there is a centering issue. I'm not sure why there's so much friction. There's no cutaway to access the lock bar. They're both handle scales are the same height. Also, the cutaway starts about 1/2 inch back from the lock face, which is kind of strange because your thumb kind of naturally goes up nearer to the lock face. And also the chamfers, it's a very steep chamfer. Instead of being more shallow at like 45 degrees, it's very, very steep vertically. So I don't think that's very comfortable. And combined with the kind of high tension on the lock bar, it does not make it a very comfortable knife to disengage. Okay, let's get on to the final issue, which is the pocket clip. And basically, this pocket clip is horrendous. So you see you have it's kind of like a spike that grabs onto the fabric of your pocket. And not only is the shape kind of bad, but the tension on this thing is just insane. This is a very stiff clip, so I'm afraid to use it in my pocket. I'm afraid it'll just tear up the material. In my opinion, they might be much better off with just a stainless steel pocket clip. Those work much better than titanium clips. Also, they don't stick up so high. This one, when you grab it with your other hand, it's so high that you really feel where the clip is. So this pocket clip is pretty horrible. I'm surprised that we let this model out of the factory like that. So that pretty much wraps it up for the WE 808 caliber. For me, there's too many negatives to this knife and not enough positives. I think if we worked on a second revision of this knife, they could fix a lot of the issues. One more issue is that the handle, being this octagonal shape, it's relatively round, is that when it's in your pocket, it has a tendency, the knife has a tendency to rotate. Like, say the fabric is here and the knife is here, clipped on. The knife has a tendency to rotate because the handle scales don't have a very wide flat area. So if they could redesign it to have a wider flat area back here, they'd have to reshape the profile of the octagonal. Okay, so thank you for watching and have a nice day. See you later.